Alex had never expected that a routine exploration mission would lead him to the most extraordinary encounter of his life. He had always been fascinated by the unknown, driven by a curiosity that often put him in danger. But nothing could have prepared him for the sight that greeted him when his shuttle touched down on the crimson-hued planet of Zerath. Jagged cliffs stretched across the horizon, and the sky swirled with golden clouds, casting long, eerie shadows across the barren landscape. Winds carried a faint metallic scent, and Alex could feel the electricity in the air, a sign of the planet's unusual energy. His mission was simple, or at least it had seemed simple on paper. Survey the terrain, collect samples, and document any life forms encountered. Yet as he carefully navigated through the rocky valleys, he sensed that something or someone was watching him. That feeling intensified when he stumbled upon signs of a recent skirmish, scorched ground, claw marks deep into the rock, and traces of blood that didn't resemble anything he had seen before. Then he saw her. Kelara was a warrior, unlike any being Alex had ever encountered. She stood tall, her muscular frame sheathed in sleek, reflective armor that seemed to shimmer with its own light. Her skin, a deep shade of violet, contrasted sharply with her piercing silver eyes which glimmered like polished metal. She moved with a fluid grace, each motion deliberate, calculated, and deadly. There was an aura of danger around her that made Alex's heart race, not from fear alone, but from the thrill of meeting someone so extraordinary. She didn't immediately acknowledge him. Instead, she observed him from a distance, her eyes narrowing as if assessing whether he was a threat, prey, or something entirely unexpected. Alex raised his hand slightly, a universal sign of peace, and tried to appear as non-threatening as possible. "Hello?" he called out, his voice carrying in the still air. "I come in peace." Kelara tilted her head but didn't respond. She drew a weapon from her side, a long, double-edged blade that glowed faintly along its edges. Alex froze, unsure if retreating would provoke her. Before he could make a move, a low, guttural growl echoed from the cliffs behind him. From the shadows emerged a pack of native predators, each larger than a human and covered in scales that gleamed under the strange sun. Their eyes were a menacing red, and their teeth dripped with saliva. Alex knew that any confrontation would be fatal if he faced them alone. Kelara's reaction was instantaneous. She lunged forward, her blade slicing through the air with precision, striking one of the creatures before it could leap. Alex felt the ground shake as the others charged. Without thinking, he grabbed a rock and hurled it at one of the predators, distracting it long enough for Kelara to finish it off. Then he noticed a small device on his wrist, the portable energy blaster he had brought for emergencies. He activated it, sending a pulse of light that stunned two more creatures, giving Kelara a chance to take them down. She glanced at him briefly, her expression unreadable. Alex wondered if he had just made a terrible mistake by interfering in what clearly seemed like her territory. But as the last predator fell, Kelara did something unexpected. She nodded. Just slightly, almost imperceptibly, but enough to let Alex know that she recognized his courage. For the rest of the day, they moved together cautiously. Alex followed her, learning quickly that Kelara knew every twist and turn of the jagged terrain. She was relentless, her senses sharp, and her movements silent. Alex realized that surviving alongside her would not be easy, but it was also exhilarating. Every step he took seemed to bring him closer to understanding her, and the culture she represented, one built on strength, honor, and precision. As night fell, they found shelter in a natural cave, the walls etched with strange symbols and glowing faintly in the dim light. Alex lit a small portable lamp, illuminating the space enough to see each other clearly. Kelara settled across from him, her blade resting beside her, and for the first time, she allowed herself a brief moment of rest. Alex couldn't resist the curiosity and nervousness that bubbled inside him. He had seen many warriors, many leaders, but none like her. Her entire being exuded confidence and power, yet there was a subtle loneliness in her eyes, a hint of isolation that intrigued him. On a whim, and perhaps hoping to ease the tension, he leaned forward slightly and spoke. "You know," he began, forcing a casual tone. "In some human cultures, when someone impresses you or saves your life, it's customary to, I don't know, make a grand gesture, something like a..." He paused, feeling the absurdity of his words. "Will you marry me?" The words hung in the air, ridiculous, almost comical against the backdrop of alien cliffs and the glow of their makeshift cave. Alex immediately regretted saying it. He expected Kalara to laugh, to scoff, or even react aggressively. He braced himself for a hostile response. Instead, Kalara froze. Her eyes widened slightly, the faintest flicker of surprise crossing her otherwise composed face. She didn't move, didn't speak, and didn't lower her guard entirely. Alex's heart thumped loudly in his chest as he waited, unsure if he had just made a grave mistake. Minutes passed. The cave was silent except for the distant hum of energy that seemed to pulse through the planet itself. Then Kalara did something that stunned Alex even more. She lowered her weapon slightly, a gesture so subtle yet so significant that it made Alex catch his breath. Her gaze softened, her silver eyes studying him carefully as if weighing the sincerity behind his words. Alex swallowed hard. I was joking, he said quickly, trying to fill the uncomfortable silence. It's just a human joke. I didn't mean... Kalara held up a hand, stopping him. Her expression was unreadable again, but there was a new intensity in her gaze. Alex felt as if she were trying to understand something deep inside him, something beyond words. For a moment it felt as though time itself had slowed, and the planet, the predators, the dangers, they all faded into the background. It was just the two of them, locked in a silent conversation that transcended language. Finally she spoke. Not in words Alex could understand fully, but in a tone that carried meaning. It was soft, yet commanding, a paradox that made his chest tighten. Human. Your words are strange, she said, her accent sharp and melodic. Yet your courage is undeniable. Alex blinked. That wasn't a rejection, not exactly. She hadn't said yes or no. She had acknowledged him. In her own way she had responded, and the effect was electrifying. They spent the night in tense but mutual silence. Alex couldn't sleep, his mind replaying every glance, every motion, every flicker of expression on Kalara's face. He realized that something had shifted between them. Not just the survival bond of warrior and rescuer, but something far more subtle. A connection had formed, fragile yet undeniable, one that neither of them could ignore. By dawn the storm had passed, leaving the sky painted in shades of violet and gold. Kalara stood at the mouth of the cave, scanning the horizon with her usual intensity. Alex rose beside her, noticing for the first time the way the sunlight caught her armor, making it gleam like molten metal. He felt a strange mixture of admiration, awe, and something he couldn't quite name, an emotion that had no place in the practical, survival-focused world he was used to. Where do we go from here? He asked cautiously, knowing that the answer would shape the rest of their journey. Kalara's gaze shifted to him briefly, her silver eyes reflecting the rising sun. Then she turned back toward the rocky paths ahead. She didn't speak, but the message was clear. They would continue together, for now, guided by necessity, trust, and the unspoken bond that had begun to form between them. As they moved across the jagged terrain, Alex felt a thrill he had never experienced before. He was walking beside a legend, a being whose power and reputation were known across worlds. And yet in that moment he sensed that Kalara saw him differently. She saw not just a human, not just an outsider, but someone capable of bravery, ingenuity, and perhaps understanding. Each step forward brought new dangers. Native predators lurked in the shadows. The terrain itself seemed alive with hidden threats, and the planet's energy pulsed unpredictably. Yet Alex felt more alive than ever. He was no longer just a human explorer. He was a companion to a warrior, someone who had crossed the threshold of fear and misunderstanding into something new and uncharted. By the time the sun reached its peak, they arrived at a small plateau overlooking a vast canyon. Kalara paused, surveying the area with her practiced eyes. Alex stood beside her, feeling the weight of the moment. It was not just survival that mattered anymore. It was the unspoken understanding that had begun to grow between them. Fragile yet undeniable. And Alex knew one thing with certainty. The question he had asked, half joke, half serious, had set something in motion. He did not yet know what Kalara's ultimate answer would be, or how this bond would evolve. But he knew that his life, and perhaps hers, had changed forever. As they prepared to descend into the canyon, Alex took a deep breath, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. He glanced at Kalara, and for the first time he felt a sense of true partnership. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And somewhere deep down, he hoped that one day, she would give him an answer that would leave him speechless, not in surprise, but in awe. The wind swept across the canyon, carrying fine red dust that clung to Alex's clothes and skin. He followed Kilara carefully, noticing the way her eyes constantly scanned the surroundings. Every rock formation, every shadow, every slight movement in the air caught her attention. She moved with a predator's precision, yet there was something more now. An awareness of him beside her, a silent acknowledgement that he was no longer just an intruder in her world. As they descended into the canyon, Alex marveled at the alien landscape. The canyon walls glowed faintly with phosphorescent minerals, and pools of crystalline water reflected the rising sun like scattered gems. Strange plants with luminescent fronds swayed gently in the breeze, and distant cliffs were dotted with nests of the planet's larger predators. Despite the beauty, Alex knew danger lurked everywhere. One wrong step, one miscalculated move, and they could be ambushed or fall into the canyon's jagged depths. Kilara moved ahead of him, her armor glinting in the light, her blade at the ready. Alex kept his own weapon in hand, though he trusted her instincts more than his own. In moments like this, he realized how extraordinary she truly was. Kilara's focus was absolute. Every sense seemed heightened, every movement deliberate, and yet as he watched her, he couldn't help noticing the subtle ways she regarded him, not as a burden, not as prey, but as someone who belonged in this dangerous alien world beside her. Hours passed as they navigated the canyon. They moved silently, avoiding predator dens and treacherous paths. Kilara occasionally pointed to markings etched into the rock walls, symbols of her clan's history and territory. Alex tried to understand them, realizing that these were not mere decorations. They were warnings, records of battles, and lessons for those who dared enter their lands. At one point, they came upon a river that flowed with strange silvery liquid. The water shimmered unnaturally, reflecting their forms in distorted shapes. Kilara paused, her eyes narrowing. "Be careful," she said in her melodic, sharp accent. "This river is dangerous. It is not only the current, but the creatures that dwell within." Alex nodded, remembering the predators they had faced earlier. He stepped cautiously, testing the water with a long branch before crossing. Kilara followed him but moved with effortless grace, barely disturbing the surface. Once across, she glanced back at him, her silver eyes meeting his. Alex felt a jolt of connection, an unspoken recognition of the trust that had begun to form between them. As the day wore on, they encountered signs of another group, alien warriors from a rival clan. Their tracks were fresh, and the faint scent of energy weapons lingered in the air. Kilara's body tensed, her hand instinctively gripping her blade. Alex felt his pulse quicken. He had already seen her in battle, but now he realized the stakes were even higher. Kilara spoke quietly, explaining her clan's customs regarding honor, combat, and leadership. Alex listened intently, realizing that understanding her world required more than just observation. It required respect, patience, and adaptability. He explained his own human ways, emphasizing humor, ingenuity, and trust. Kilara's gaze softened slightly, as if she were beginning to see the man beneath the human explorer. Someone clever, courageous, and capable of partnership. As evening fell, they found a sheltered ledge overlooking the canyon. The sky turned shades of crimson and purple, and the air grew cooler. They made a small camp, carefully arranging their gear and conserving energy for the night ahead. Alex watched Kilara as she tended to her equipment. He noticed small details, the way she cleaned her blade, the slight flinch when a rock shifted, the quiet exhale when she thought no one was watching. It was moments like these that humanized her in his eyes, revealing the person behind the armor and reputation. Feeling bold, Alex decided to revisit the question he had asked days ago. He had been joking then, but now he realized there was sincerity behind his words. "Kilara," he said cautiously, "about what I asked before. I didn't mean it as a joke. Not really, I respect you more than I can explain." Kilara turned sharply, her silver eyes meeting his. For a moment, Alex thought she would dismiss him, but instead, she studied him carefully. Then she spoke, her voice calm but weighted with meaning. "Human, your words are unusual, yet I sense truth in them. You speak of connection, not challenge. That is rare among your kind." Alex felt a surge of hope. He nodded. I don't know your customs, Kalara. I don't even fully understand yours. But I do know this. I want to face this world with you. I want to stand beside you if you'll allow it. Kalara regarded him silently, the wind whipping through her hair, her armor catching the last rays of sunlight. She seemed to weigh her answer carefully. Then slowly she extended her hand, not in battle but in a gesture of trust. Then we will see what fate brings. You will walk beside me, human. That is a start. Alex couldn't help the smile that broke across his face. It was not a full answer, but it was more than he could have hoped for. A bond had begun, one built on trust, courage, and mutual respect. The next challenge came swiftly. As night fell completely, the sounds of the canyon shifted. Alex sensed it first, the low hum of energy weapons charging. From the shadows, rival warriors emerged, their weapons glowing, their intent clear. Kalara moved instantly, positioning herself between Alex and the attackers. Stay close, she commanded, her voice firm but not harsh. Alex followed her lead, relying on both instinct and the lessons he had learned from watching her. Kalara moved with precision, striking swiftly and efficiently, disabling enemies before they could land a blow. Alex contributed where he could, using his human ingenuity to create distractions, set traps, and exploit the terrain. Together they formed a formidable team, blending her combat prowess with his creative thinking. The battle was intense, but their coordination proved superior. As the last rival fell, Kalara stood, breathing steadily, and looked at Alex. You fight well, she said. Not like a human expected to survive. You adapt. You endure, that is, worthy of respect. Alex nodded, feeling both exhausted and exhilarated. He realized that this victory was more than just survival. It was proof that humans and aliens could work together, that courage and intelligence could bridge worlds. As they settled again for the night, Kalara spoke quietly. Your proposal, your words, they carry weight now. Not as a joke, not as challenge, but as intention. I see the truth in you, human. That is rare. Very rare. Alex's heart raced. So, you're saying... Kalara held up a hand, smiling faintly. I am saying that trust has been earned. Perhaps more. But the future is uncertain. We will face it together and see what comes. That is my answer. For now. Alex felt a mixture of relief and exhilaration. It was not a traditional yes, but it was something far more meaningful. It was respect. It was acknowledgement. It was the beginning of a bond that could withstand anything the universe might throw at them. The following days were a test of endurance and cooperation. Alex learned more about Kalara's culture, her clan's values, and her personal code of honor. He adapted his human skills to complement her strategies, from scouting to setting clever diversions to managing their supplies efficiently. Kalara, in turn, began to appreciate the human capacity for creativity and resilience. During one quiet evening, as they watched the twin moons rise over the canyon, Alex finally asked the question he had been hesitant to voice. Kalara, do you think, in your world, a human and a warrior like you could ever... He trailed off, unsure how to phrase it. Kalara looked at him, her expression thoughtful. Then she said simply, We will define our path as we go. Your presence changes what I believed was possible. That is enough for now, Alex understood. She was not closing the door. She was opening it on her own terms. He felt a surge of hope and determination. Together they would navigate this strange, dangerous world, facing threats and discoveries alike. Together, they would redefine the limits of what it meant for a human to stand beside an alien warrior. As the sun rose on the horizon, casting golden light over the canyon walls, Alex and Kalara moved forward once more. There was danger ahead, yes, but there was also possibility. A partnership had been forged, unbreakable and unusual, born from courage, respect, and the quiet understanding that two very different beings could face the universe together. And for Alex, the thought of Kalara beside him was more than just survival. It was adventure, it was challenge, it was wonder. It was a connection he could not have imagined before that fateful day, and one that would shape the rest of his life in ways he had only begun to discover. For Kalara, the human beside her was no longer just an outsider. He was an ally, a companion, and perhaps in time something even greater. And though her world had rules, traditions, and expectations, she found herself willing to explore a new possibility, one that neither she nor Alex could have predicted, but one that promised hope, partnership, and a future neither of them would face alone. The canyon stretched endlessly before them, filled with both danger and opportunity. They stepped forward together, ready to face whatever the universe had in store, bound by trust, courage, and the spark of something extraordinary.